From Southern Colorado's high-definition news leader, this is News Channel 13, where the news comes first.
Good morning, Colorado. It is 6 a.m. on this Friday, July 5th. I'm Brittany Bailey.
And I'm John Carroll. The 4th of July holiday was a staycation for more Americans this year. AAA estimates 41 million people will travel 50 miles from home by Monday. That's 300,000 less than last year.
Now, that made celebrations in cities across the country the main attraction. Eric Dodd tells us about a few of them.
In New York City, Macy's held its 37th annual fireworks show over the Hudson River. The pyrotechnics were spread over 4 barges and shot 1,000 feet into the sky. According to the retailer, R&B singer Usher created the fireworks playlist. In Atlanta, people braved the wet weather to watch the fireworks over Georgia's Centennial Olympic Park. Though other local events were postponed or canceled because of the rain, the pyrotechnic show went on. In Simi Valley, California, authorities say more than a dozen people were injured after a fireworks explosion. Now the fire department is trying to figure out how to handle the unexploded fireworks. And in the nation's capital, the 237th birthday celebration included a concert featuring Barry Manilow and other musical guests like Neil Diamond. It was capped off with fireworks over the Capitol Mall, set to the 1812 Overture. I'm Eric Dodd reporting.
There were no fireworks at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina this year.
Military officials say they did not have the funds to cover additional costs of putting on a big celebration because of the sequester.
And for the first time in 4 years, there was a big fireworks show at Memorial Park in the Springs. Increased rain and humidity prompted the city to remove a ban on public fireworks displays earlier this week.
Personal fireworks are still illegal in Colorado Springs and Pueblo. If you're caught, you can face a fine and jail time. Dozens of law enforcement spent the night on patrol. We'll check in with them a little later.
Now we're going to check in with Storm Tracker 13 meteorologist Marty Benichinque for more on your weekend holiday forecast.
And I was well asleep by the time these were underway last night, but Chief Meteorologist Matt Meister ran a time-lapse from the Broadmoor Hotel. Thought I'd share them with you. Fireworks over Memorial Park. If you missed them, it was a nice show, obviously. Beautiful night for that. No thunderstorms around. We actually have some showers moving into the area this morning. Check it out. Storm Tracker 13 live HD Doppler showing a little bit of radar activity along and west of the interstate between Monument Hill and Denver. We don't really expect much to fall out of the sky here this morning, but it's an indication of things to come a little later on. And so we're now looking up from Woodland Park towards that area on radar that suggested maybe there was some rain. Hard to really make out whether or not that's hitting the ground or not, but there could be at least a few sprinkles. It's a little breezy up there up on top of Gold Hill at Peak Internet where we have 58 degrees. We're in the mid-60s at Mugabug Pest Control under a partly cloudy sky. There have been some breezy pockets across the Front Range. A few spots on occasion showing wind up around 10 to 15 miles an hour, but not so much right now at Mugabug, nor at Parkview Medical Center in Pueblo where the wind's at 7 miles an hour, and we have a very nice 66 degrees. We should be in the 80s to around 90 at lunchtime, so it's going to get pretty darn warm today. Clouds will be increasing through the afternoon. We'll get close to 90 in the Springs, into the upper 90s in Pueblo, and then any storms that come by will tend to cool things off. Majority of the rain should be found over the mountains. We'll talk about why and how the rest of the weekend shapes up coming up in just a bit. John and Brittany, back to you.
Marty, thanks. 6:03 now. Colorado Springs police are on the lookout for a man who crashed into a home early this morning and then fled.
It was a startling wake-up call for the 88-year-old homeowner. KRDO News Channel 13's Emily Allen joins us live from outside the home with more on what happened. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, John and Brittany. This started as a high-speed chase and ended here when a Ford F-150 crashed into this home. I'm joined with the homeowner, Colonel Robert Taylor. So walk us through what happened.
Well, it was right after midnight when, while I was sleeping, this horrible crash woke me up. I first thought it was a lightning bolt, but then I knew there was no weather. Then I thought it was an airplane. It had crashed. It was so loud. And when I got out of bed and could get a door open, here was this big pickup truck trying to drive down the hallway of my house. And the dust was quite extensive. I thought I smelled gasoline, and I was quite concerned. The problem I had, I couldn't even get out of the only way I could get out of that end of the house is to go out the bedroom window. About that time here, with all the firemen and the policemen, they responded quickly. And everybody that responded, they were concerned that I was injured. They didn't know how many people were in the house, and it turned out to the advantage. There was no water pipes broken, no fire, so I just thank the Lord for that. So all in all, unfortunately it happened, but when I finally could get into the living room area of the home, the dining room, I could not believe what I saw. Maybe the cameras will show that in a sense. First impression was everything was a total shambles. All the nice things that I'd made, furniture and things of that type, were crushed. And I thought of the people who go through the tragedy of a tornado or the fire. And I thought immediately, I don't have a problem. So that's how I felt about it. And it's unfortunate it happened. But as I was joking with you earlier, I said, well, it's about time I cleaned up that living room. And people who know me will get a kick out of that. Okay. So basically that's what happened. The response by the police and the fire station was really amazing to me. And what they were concerned about was that they didn't know where the driver was. And it was pitch dark, of course, and they had a K9 dog, and he had trailed the person out the front door and out the gate and then down the hill. So at least they knew he was away from the area, and they were a little cautious about that. So we didn't need a gunfight or something like that in the neighborhood, that's for sure. So that's what happened. There's not an awful lot to it, except it was pretty much of a mess inside.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Colonel. So at this point, police are still looking for the driver. If they are able to find him and identify him, he is going to be facing several charges. Reporting in Colorado Springs, Emily Allen, KRDO, News Channel 13.
All right, thanks, Emily. And new this morning, a crash in El Paso County claimed the life of one person. The crash happened on Londonderry Drive, about a mile west of Meridian Road. Troopers say a motorcycle rider lost control and crashed. 44-year-old Stanley Cooper of Colorado Springs died at the hospital. Troopers say he was not wearing a helmet. Parts of Highway 34 remain closed this morning. That's after a crash killed one person and injured at least 4 others. It happened as people were leaving a fireworks show in Grand Lake. We're told the truck hit the group of people when they were attempting to cross the highway. The northbound lanes of the highway are still closed. Southbound lanes reopened shortly before 1:30 this morning. Well, it is enough to make a grown man cry. A beer truck rolled over on Highway 58, spilling thousands of cans of Coors beer onto the roadway. Wheat Ridge police closed the eastbound lanes of the highway to allow cleanup of the debris yesterday afternoon. The truck rolled on eastbound Highway 58, headed to eastbound Interstate 70. The truck that was hauling the beer was uprighted but collapsed during the cleanup operation. Police said the truck driver refused medical care. There were no other injuries.
6:08 now. Turning to your wildfire tracker, the West Fork Fire Complex burning in southern Colorado has grown to more than 160 square miles. Firefighters say the complex intensified over the last 24 hours. The fire remains about 16% contained. The West Fork complex is made up of 3 wildfires, the Papoose, West Fork, and Windy Pass fires. The fires are burning between the cities of Creed, South Fork, and Pagosa Springs. Good news this morning in the battle to control a wildfire burning in Arizona. The Yarnell fire is now 80% contained. This fire destroyed more than 100 homes and has burned about 13 square miles. The small town of Yarnell remains evacuated this morning. This is the fire that killed 19 hotshot firefighters over the weekend. Authorities are now planning an official memorial on Tuesday for those 19 fallen firefighters. But some people aren't waiting to remember the fallen. In an impromptu show of support, civilians and firefighters lined the streets as the 2 Granite Mountain hotshot buggies returned from the fire line yesterday. The hotshot buggies were empty, honoring the firefighters who should have been in them. As they passed, firefighters saluted their lost brothers and fought back tears.
It's like any fire department, fire family in the country. It's like your second family.
Throughout town, there are signs of love and support for the hotshots and their families.
The 4th of July proved to be a deadly day for several people attending parades. Coming up on Good Morning Colorado, we'll tell you what happened.
An annual Independence Day tradition in the nation's capital brings out some big names. We'll take you to the concert.
And don't forget about water restrictions today. Only businesses are allowed to water. Time now, coming up on 6:10. We'll be back with more Good Morning Colorado.